How's it going? I'm Kevin Toohey, your Warrior Spirit Guide, and today I'd just like to tell you a story about myself and how the Warrior Spirit Guide came to be. I'm 57 years old. I know I don't look it. I'm vegan, I'm Virgo, and I am a U.S. Army infantry veteran. I'm in a relationship, and I am also 36 years sober. Born and raised in a place called Washington Heights, New York, to Irish immigrant parents who met in New York and had 5 kids, of which I'm the fourth. I grew up in 1970s New York, which was rough. It was scary outside. It was scary inside. There was a lot of dysfunction in my family and violence, alcoholism, drug addiction. And my parents grew up in 1920s Ireland. Uh, they grew up with British colonialism, Catholic repression, and they both grew up on farms, which is a harsh way of life, in my humble opinion. My mother was the oldest of 10, my father was the youngest of 8. And they brought all that back to New York with them and tried their best to raise 5 kids in a place where my dad didn't even want to be. He did not enjoy living in New York City. There was a New York was bankrupt. There was a garbage strike, crime and dirt, violence all over the place. And yeah, it was rough, but it was fun. But it was rough. So yeah, I started drinking at 13. And prior to that, I tried to escape from all that I described by reading comic books and drawing. And my dream was to be a comic book artist. But after I got drunk at 13, I lost interest in a lot of that stuff. I lost interest in school. And, in reality, I needed another drink. And so as soon as I started going to high school, that's what I did. I started meeting a bunch of other hooky players on the corner. We chipped in our lunch money and we're off to the races. And I loved it. I loved drinking and smoking. It was a blast. And um, my father was in his 60s at this point and told me uh, that I was too old and he was too old, that he didn't want to couldn't beat me anymore. And, that was sad because that was like the only attention I got from him. And so uh, they even sent me to therapy at 15, which is a big deal for Irish immigrants who I didn't even think knew anything about psychotherapy. So I had to get drunk just to visit this psychotherapist. And my dad had a stroke. Uh, he was about to retire, but instead had a stroke, and we moved to California, which I hated because I'd just gotten a promotion in the local gang, the Bad Boys, because the Bad Boys was taken. And yeah, I was in San Francisco, and I ended up joining another gang of African Americans who were mostly children of Black Panthers, and I was allowed. This white boy was allowed because I was from New York. So one of the guys in the gang decided to join the army and tricked me into going to a recruiter. And we watched a video of 30 guys running down the street singing, and I said I can do that. So I picked Germany and I picked the infantry, and off I went. I go to nuclear missiles for 3 years. I carried a machine gun. I jumped out of helicopters, and I loved it. I became the superhero I always fantasized about. All I was missing was a cape. I fell in love for the first time with a German girl who spoke no English, but the first thing she learned to say was, "Kevin, you got a drinking problem. You drink too much." And I loved the army. It was a blast. And I got drunk one night, got stabbed by my best friend. My lower intestines hanging out, but didn't bother me. I mean, I had some other uh, issues when I drank. I ran away from home and fell off a bus and broke my arm. I punched a wall and broke my hand, but physical pain didn't bother me, especially when I was drunk. Um, so I got out of the army and went back to San Francisco, but I started having an experience I call reverse Jesus. The wine got turned to water. Literally couldn't get drunk anymore. And again, that's a drinking problem for me. Um, and I had a really bad temper. A lot of, I grew up with a violent family, violent background. And so that's how I treated the women in my life, and men too. Just I didn't know how to treat people. And I used my sense of humor to get, uh, to cope, you know, making jokes at other people's expense, and just just not taking anything seriously. My brother got sober and tried to help me, uh, but I didn't stay sober. And then when I got out of the army, my sister had he had gotten her sober, and she took me to my first recovery meeting, and I drank right after that. But um, yeah, so like I said, alcohol stopped working, and I just felt kind of lost, just like a lack of connection with people in general. My family, I didn't feel connected to them. I didn't feel I was lacking connections with women, even other men. I didn't feel, except when I was drinking and being stupid. But I didn't I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't have anyone close to in my life. I didn't trust people, and my sisters convinced me to do this self improvement course. And the first night, I they turned off the lights in this Holiday Inn in Chinatown, and started doing creative visualization, and it was like the first of 5 nights, and I was supposed to be sober, but I didn't know I was going to get through it, but I was sober that night. And um, I saw a light in this dark room, and I heard a voice that wasn't from the facilitator, and the voice said, "Kevin, you got a problem with drugs and alcohol." And I started to cry and hyperventilate. I ran down the street, and I had a thought I'd never had before: I don't want to drink anymore, I want to be sober. And that was the first day of my sobriety. But I learned soon after that sobriety is just the beginning, that I still had other issues to deal with. One of them was my temper, and I lost my temper at 4 months sober, and I punched a wall at another job I had in a hotel and broke my hand. And that's when I started going to meetings and tried to get help. And I was going to therapy. I was reading books, self-help books. I was uh, fasting. I was lifting weights 2 hours a day. I became a vegetarian. I did a vision quest. I was doing men's retreats, all kinds of stuff just to try and like feel better, basically. Because I just, I had depression and insomnia and mania, and I felt crazier than when I was drinking. I had subliminal tapes playing in my house on a loop, trying to just like get better, get well. And after, and I didn't like myself. At 3 years sober, I lost my temper and assaulted a girlfriend of mine, and I just couldn't believe it, my behavior. But I didn't know how to change. And so at 6 years sober, I decided to kill myself, and I'd seen a lot of people do it. I didn't feel bad about it. I'd done everything I could, and I just was like, this is it. But I went to my last sober convention to say goodbye, farewell, and I met two women, and they were very attractive, not just physically, but they weren't interested in me, and they made them. I was very intrigued. They weren't falling for me, and I got a ride home with them, and they got into a fight in the car, and they started writing, and it was the craziest thing I ever saw. And one of them offered me to show me how to write down what's bothering me, and I was like, nothing bothered me. But once I started, it was like, wow, I didn't realize how fearful I was, how resentful I was. And then we meditated, and I learned to meditate 2 years prior, but I couldn't meditate with a head full of all the stuff I've been describing to you, all this, just wreckage, all these fears about myself, that I'm a failure, I'm a screw up, can't make it, you know, I just can't do it. I can't be a partner. I can't be a worker. I can't be, you know, and I even tried martial arts, and I got thrown out of the school for not showing up on time, because I have ADHD. So anyway, I had a profound experience because of learning, doing that the writing and meditating, and it changed my life. It's changed my life and literally saved my life many times. And having someone to share that with, that I identify with, and um, another man, and that guy saved my life many times, just sharing experience with me, because he was also doing self-examination and meditation every day, and helping others. And I learned a lot. I got a lot of clarity, got a lot of enlightenment from it. And like I said, I've been doing it for the last 31 years, and I've also helped a lot of alcoholics. And now I want to help men. I want to help men And you know, I want to help men look at themselves. It's not easy for us, because when I see problems, I want to fix it. But the hardest thing to fix is myself. I don't know how to do that. I haven't known how to do that, but by learning these steps, which I've also included exercise and being creative and helping others and connecting with people, which has been a problem for me in my life. It's helped me a great deal, doing all this stuff on a daily basis, which I call the daily journey inward. Because blaming other people doesn't help me, but looking at myself does, and not blaming myself either. Just being able to kind of like take accountability and admit what's troubling me, what's blocking me from being happy, what's blocking me from being kind, what's blocking me from pursuing my goals and dreams and desires. You know, uh, as long as I'm not as long as I'm not hurting other people. So I want to offer you guys a 30-minute conversation. Anybody who wants to call and talk about what's going on in your life. What challenges are you trying to face? Or how would you like to change? Do you want to change? Is there anything that you don't even, maybe you don't even know what to change? Or you think you need to change? Do you have problems in relationships? Would you like me to talk about relationships? It's a big deal for me as a man, having relationships, not just with women, but with other men, and trusting people. In my 40s, I learned that I had blacked out, that I had been sexually abused as a child, and I can see now that that's gotten in the way of my relationships with men and women. Having trust and intimacy, and also being shut down sexually and being extremely promiscuous, and it really always I was wondering what the hell's wrong with me, and I was relieved to find that out so I can get help, and I have been working on that, and it's helped me a lot in my current relationship because I get triggered by things that have happened in my past. My girlfriend will be talking to me, for example, and I hear my dad telling me what to do, trying to control me, and I'll flip out. And she'll say, I'm just talking. It's not me. I'm not your dad. Why don't you write about it? Why don't you meditate about it? Why don't you share about it? What's going on in your head? And it makes makes a huge difference. And all the other things that I've mentioned to get me in my body instead of just like trying to check out, which is so easy to do these days. Check out in social media, check out like on TV, check out sexually, check out in at work. Just check out and like trying to avoid my own pain. I don't even know I'm in pain. I'm like, I'm fine, right? What's the thing we like to say? I'm fine. I'm okay. Look, everything's fine. But then in those moments when you're alone, or in those moments where you're having difficulty communicating with your partner or anybody, you realize something's wrong. I can't put my finger. I know what it is, but you know, I get to find out on a daily basis what's going on with me, and it's huge. It's a huge it's such a amazing process, and I want to share it with men. That's why I'm on YouTube, to reach out to as many men as I can. And like I said, I've been helping alcoholics for 37 years, and I want to help as many men as I can, because you know these days it seems like even more it's easy to be lost and be isolated and just kind of be, I was so easily influenced as a kid, with ideas that they're no longer useful. Maybe they never were. Hatred of women, hatred of different people, judgment of other people that weren't like me, and you know, those beliefs don't work for me anymore. They keep me from having relationships or being happy and stuff. And so anyway, I look forward to being on this daily journey and with you, and thank you for coming on the Warrior Spirit Guide with me. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more from me. I look forward to making more videos, sharing more with you, and have a great day. Thanks so much. Take care.